Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz Chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 279. Before I start the game, I want to talk about the chess engine here. I'm trying out a new chess engine, StockFish 5. It was just released over the weekend, and it has, it won the recent chess engine, Thoresen Chess Engine Competition, beating out Houdini and a more recent version of Houdini than what I was using, and Komodo, which was the previous top chess engine. So it looks like this is the top chess engine of the moment. It's also a free engine. It's completely, it's covered by the GPL, the GNU public license, so it's completely free, and you can look at the source code even. So if you're interested in chess engines, you can check it out. The name is StockFish. And the other reason I wanted to mention it, that it's a new engine, is that the evaluations are a little bit different, and they jump around quite a bit more than Houdini. Houdini's evaluations were a little more stable, and they were slightly lower overall. Like these evaluations are around 0.2, and in Houdini they'd be around 0.14, I think. So I would say it's about, if you want to compare the old numbers to the new numbers, it's maybe 50% increase in the value. So, when I talk about an evaluation that's slightly in favor of white or slightly in favor of black, I'll have to keep that in mind. So a half a point variation in Houdini was quite significant, whereas here it corresponds to maybe a third of a point variation in Houdini, half a point in StockFish. So, so you have to keep that in mind. And also, it seems to take longer to settle down. It'll find a new line, and then the evaluations will change suddenly. So the evaluations are not quite as stable as Houdini's were. Anyway, that's just what I've noticed so far. Also, I guess I want to thank one of my viewers mentioned this engine. At the time, it was still in beta, but he was commenting on one of the videos I did for the chess championship. He had evaluated some positions using StockFish beta, and he was saying it was a much better engine than Houdini. And after looking at the results, I have to agree. So I've upgraded to StockFish here, and I'll be using it, and hopefully I'll get used to its quirks pretty quickly. Okay, so let's go on with the game. I played e4, and my opponent played e5, and I chose to go into the Ruy Lopez, and my opponent selected the deferred. The Steinitz defense deferred is the official title. So first a6, the Morphy move, kicking the bishop, and then d6, just a nice supporting move. And now I play the most common move here, which is castling, but maybe c3 is a little bit more accurate, because after I castle, black can play b5 and knight to a5 and kick and grab the bishop pair. Now, both the chess engine and the opening book agree that I shouldn't be afraid of losing the bishop pair, but I have to play accurately here, and it looks like the move to play here is d4 to try and maintain an opening advantage. So let's just take a look at this variation in case I get here again. E takes d4, knight takes d4, and then he could take the bishop here and just get the bishop here. He takes b3. So what can we say about this position? And then bishop to b7. Go ahead and put that on the board. I mean, both sides have developed one piece. But white is castled and black is not. So I guess white has a significant edge in development, and black has the bishop pair. So if black can survive, yeah, white also has more space in the center. So more space in the center, edge in development with the safer king. And black has the bishop pair in compensation. So black can survive the next few moves and get his pieces out and developed and his king safe. Then he has a long-term advantage, and I guess white needs to play actively to try and realize the advantage of his space and his greater development, and just get those knights into the game. Okay, so that's the way to play that. It's a little bit tricky to judge these kind of things, especially for me. How do I know when... okay, here that was played, and I played c3 here. Yeah, I mean, situations like this, I guess there is compensation for giving up the bishop pair, and I shouldn't be worried about it, but I have to play actively with a move like d4. So what I played was c3, and then he took, And I took back with the A pawn, opening up a line for my rook. And I thought this was okay, but I was kind of annoyed that I had lost the bishop pair. He plays bishop b7, and I play rook e1. And we're just out of the opening book. It's interesting. What is the engine? Engine is suggesting d3 or d4 or rook e1. Okay, well, they're all moves. And it's all about even, I guess. d4 is the opening book. I thought after d4 I could just take the pawn. Let me see if there's a trick here. d4, bishop takes, just queen e2, and say the bishop retreats. I guess you're going to win a pawn here on e5. So that's interesting. So this e-pawn was not really hanging, and d4 is possible. And probably a better way to play than what I played then. I just played rook e1 defending, but a somewhat, well, I won't say it's entirely a passive move. The rook is sometimes active on this file. After d4, things can open up. So the game continues. Bishop e7, d4, I get that in. He takes d4. So I get a good strong center, and I have these funny isolated doubled pawns over here, which will be a long-term weakness. So long-term, black should be good with the bishop pair and the better pawn structure, but short-term I have better center control and better development still. Black is still a few moves away from developing, from castling, I mean. Knight f6 was played. Okay, he's working towards castling, and I play e5 here. You know, this pawn was under attack once again, and I didn't think of this move d5 that the engine is suggesting. It blocks the bishop. I realized that I can't play knight f3 because he can just kick it with a pawn. So so I tried this move e5, not realizing I could have played d5 there. And now this is kind of good for black, I guess. He gets to take the queens off, and so we're getting closer to that endgame situation where black should be better with the two bishops, and my advantage in development isn't so great. He's going to be able to castle soon, but he's got to do something about his knight first. So I was expecting knight d7, which is the engine move. He threw in the move bishop takes knight, and yeah, apparently that's not so great. I don't know. I mean, it messes up my pawns again, but it gives up the bishop pair. And you know, if I can hold on to my pawns, actually it gives me an extra pawn in the center. So probably black gave up some of his advantage with that move. He should have just moved his knight. So now he goes knight d7, and I develop my bishop. He castles, and I develop my knight. So just completing my development after the queens are off, and a lot of stuff has gone on. But you got to finish your development at some time. So now he plays this funny move, knight b8. I guess he's looking to reroute the knight to c6 or something like that. The engine likes the active move g5 here, or knight to b6. Yeah, probably a little better than what he played, knight b8. And now I went with knight e4 here. The engine's recommending knight d5, interestingly. And then he exchanges rooks. I was hoping to get something on this c-pawn, but knight c6, the engine thinks this would be a good move for black. He played rook to d8, and I play rook c1. And once again, oh, he played king b7, which is okay. And now I play e6. So e6 is a double threat. It attacks this pawn and it attacks this pawn. And so black needs to be careful. And there's only one move here, actually. There's only one good defense, which is knight c6, blocking the rook. He can't really defend both of them, and he can't take the pawn. It's a bit dangerous. He tried c6, which is the engine's second choice. But now this is okay for white. So once again, black had an advantage and didn't play the most accurate move, and I managed to stay in the game. So lucky for me in a way. Although this is what happens when you play a lower-rated player. They just don't find the best moves. So rook f8, which is the right move, rounding up that pawn. Knight d6 check. Maybe not cancel that. What did I play? Knight d6 check. Yeah, maybe not the most accurate move there. It lets him trade. Thought this was going to work out okay with the bishop versus the knight, but well, I have to defend my f-pawn, which was hanging, and now rook d7 was played here. He should play knight d7, I guess. Rook d7, once again, the game is about even. But I'm not sure. Well, I'm still getting used to this new chess engine, so I'm not sure. I mean, these evaluations seem to jump around quite a bit, and I'm wondering if really I'm just overreacting, because in Houdini those values wouldn't have changed that much, I'm pretty sure. So this is probably the sort of the normal back and forth you get in a game. Rook d7, okay, so I felt like retreating the bishop. Yeah, the engine is pointing out this line, rook, bishop takes b8. I thought about this, but I thought this would just be pretty much dead even. Bishop takes, king takes, rook takes. And I'm hitting this pawn, but he can defend it. I thought he would defend with the king. I thought king b7. Okay, well, that's a move there too. And yeah, it's 0, 0, 0. So I was hoping to keep, I mean, these. I have a sort of technical advantage of the 3 pawns against 2, but it's not going to amount to anything. It's just going to be a draw, because these pawns are so messed up. It's not like it's a healthy majority. So I didn't want to go there. I wanted to keep force on the board and hope to get into a position where I could get an advantage. So I retreated the bishop, and he played rook d5, chasing the bishop, and I just went f4. I thought supporting the bishop in the center there, this is a good outpost for the bishop. It can't be chased away by a pawn, but he can chase it away with a knight. He played g6 first, holding on to his pawn. And then I developed my rook here, trying to get it to an active square, and he plays knight d7, going after the bishop. So I didn't want to give up the bishop again, so I played bishop g7. And well, the engine is starting to like black again here. And okay, so after that, he played rook to c5. Cancel that. Rook to c5. Oh, here, trying to trade rooks. I'm okay with this rook trade. This rook trade is helping to straighten out my pawns, and it leaves me with an unbalanced position of a bishop versus a knight, which is what I like, because when there's an unbalanced position, then I still have chances to win, basically. So I let the rook stand there, and then he took it. And if we back up, well, the engine thinks playing a5 here is better, but it thinks that I should take with the bishop here, which I totally don't understand. But once again, a5. So maybe there's a danger of this becoming an outside pass pawn. Okay, but he played knight c5 instead. And this is great, because this allows me to get this pawn configuration where I've got 2 pawns holding back 3 pawns. And so maybe this is the real mistake, although the engine still thinks this position is even here. But then I can go after these pawns on the queen side and end up with a majority over here. And as long as these 2 pawns are holding back these 3, I have winning chances here. So he goes knight e6, going after my bishop again. I go bishop f6, king c7. And yeah, the engine is not impressed. It thinks this is all even here. But slowly, you know, I'm working my way forward. Yeah, actually, you see white's advantage starting to increase now. King d7 coming over to the queen side. And now f5, which I play. Well, I got one move right. G takes f5, king takes. That was kind of forced. And now I have this passed pawn over here. He plays the move knight f8. And let's see. Yeah, I went with f4, just pushing the pawn. And then he went knight to g6. So his maneuvers here are not impressing. It's hard to say what he should do, but this is a position that maybe is already winning. The longer you let the engine think about it, the higher this value climbs. So from a position that was dead even just a few moves later, thinks this is winning. So it could have been winning even earlier. It's hard to say. Sometimes the engines are just not looking ahead far enough, particularly in the endgames. But anyway, my opponent played, no, it's my turn. I played h4. The pawn is defended by my bishop, and I want to chase this knight away. I'm going to take squares away from the knight and just try and limit my opponent's moves entirely and use that to make progress. So he drops his knight back to f8, I think. No, he played c5 here. So that's okay. I don't mind that exchange. I just push on with h5, and now he drops his knight back to f8. And after that, I move my king to e5. I'm getting out of the way of my pawn here. And he takes, I take back, naturally. And now we got this situation where one pawn holds two pawns. If he ever pushes, I can take and then get a runner. It'll distract his king and my bishop. The advantage the bishop has over the knight in the endgame is the bishop can cover these squares, when my king gets out of the way at least. So I don't have to worry so much about his passed pawn. My passed pawn is actually more dangerous. And while he's over here trying to round this up, then I can queen one of these kingside pawns over here. Okay, so after c takes b4, he plays knight e6. And, oh yeah, while I was talking, the engine has had more time to think about it, and now it sees that this is just clearly winning. So already this is the winning position, and even though my opponent makes a mistake in a few moves, being low on time, it was actually already lost. f5, and the knight dropped back to f8. It should go to c7. And I have this killer move, bishop g7, which I didn't notice here. I just played king d5, which is still winning. And then he played knight e6, and I took it. So knight e6 was just a blunder and time pressure. But what else can he play? The only move basically is h6. And then I go bishop g7. If he doesn't, I'm just picking up another pawn, and these guys will win. So if he doesn't move the h-pawn, what else can he try here? The knight has no moves. The pawn, we tried that. This pawn, well, so if he tries a king move, for example, then bishop e7 here. The knight moves to avoid being taken, and then king e6 just coming in and supporting the pawn going through. So that's going to be winning. And the last try here, yeah, knight e6 is just giving up the knight. He could try pushing a pawn here. Let's see what's more accurate. Bishop g7 is more accurate, just ignoring it. That's interesting. I would probably have taken, but b takes a5. This is still winning. So he can try pushing his pawn forward, but as I push, he's got to get his king over here. And bishop d4. I can actually hold on to that pawn. So I've got 3 pawns here. His knight is still restricted, and I can actually go and round up this b pawn anytime. Let's see if he pushes it so that I don't have this option. I push on with f6. I'm just curious about how this might goes here. I take, he takes, so he gets rid of this one, but now the king comes in. King to d6. Okay, his king is now far away from the center of the action. This is how a lot of endgames are won. You distract your opponent's king, and now my king can come in, chase the knight away, and win with the with this f-pawn. Okay, so let's back up to the game. A little bit of a sideline there. My opponent played e6 and knight e6, and I just took it, and that's how the game ended. That was a time pressure blunder, but it was a winning endgame anyway, and kind of an interesting one, I thought. Some good in-game ideas for you there, hopefully. So leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.